Hey, we're back. Today we're going to be drafting the tight-fitting corset cover from the Practical Designer for Women's and Mrs. Underwear. The instructions for this start on page 800 of the book. Before we get into this, I did want to let you know, if you haven't checked it out, I stitched up a tutorial for the previous corset cover that we made in the last video. So you should go check that out if you want to see what it looks like when it's all stitched up. Let's get into it. Lesson 403. To make a tight-fitting corset cover, make the usual foundation lines. Okay. Usual foundation lines here. The first thing you're gonna notice is that there's no consistency. They've used completely different numbers, or letters, I'm sorry, in their drafting. The only ones that look like they're the same are this A, B, C, and T here. Everything else is different. So sorry if this gets confusing. We'll try and make some sense of it. We're gonna start here at the armhole section. It says divide a line between I and G to make N. That's the new I and the new G, which is our old H and our old E. So let's go ahead and cut that in half with our midpoint between 2 points tool. Oh, I don't think I mentioned it. We're drafting this pattern in Valentina. If you haven't already made this foundation garment, this foundation block here, I did a video for that. That's part 1 of this series, so go ahead and watch that video first and make this make the foundation first, and then you can jump in here with us. So we go ahead and divide these between 2 points, and then we're going to square a line straight down. Hold shift to square down. I square past the line, and then I come back with this point at line intersection tool to make a point right here. And there it is. And that's our new point 7 here. I'm not going to bother labeling the points. I've scrolled through the book a few more pages, and they change the labels every time, so we're just going to wing it. So that's our new point 7 here. Draw a line. Take out from each side of N, new N, 3/4 of an inch from either side. So 3/4 of an inch up here will go along the line. Okay, that's 3/4 of an inch this way. And 3/4 of an inch to that way. Okay, and we take out 2 inches from either side of our new point here. Oh, that's not enough. Along that line. Okay. Not 23. Okay. So there we go. Now shorten the waist length from E to 9 to 10 and to 4 with a 1/2 inch all the way. So we're going to raise this one, and this one right here up a 1/2 an inch. Hold shift. We can go ahead and draw in this curve. Let's make our guideline first. Let's make that a dotted line. So we have our guideline, and then we can pop a curve on top. That looks alright, at least compared to the book. We'll do the same for our side seams. See that curve. Beautiful. All right. Actually, that's a little sharp point there. Let's bring that in just a smidge and stretch that one out so it's not such a sharp point right at the corner there. Okay, now make the dart in front by dividing the chest from F to R, making S. Let's find out where our new F and R are. It looks like our new F is here at the bottom, and our new R is old W. So we're going to divide that in half to make new point S. Allow from V to X 3/4 of an inch and draw a line from R to X down to 14. From V to X, V to X. So that's the point here. Let me clear out these old guidelines. It doesn't look like we need them. Okay, clean it up a bit, and I want to lengthen these. So remember, they're all linked together the way we made them in the first video. So if I change that one, they all three change. And get out of my way. So here we are, we're going to allow from new V to X 3/4 of an inch. Draw a line from R to X, and you'll notice that line has a bit of a curve to it. I'll call that good for now. Once we draw on this curve, we can finish it up better. Draw a line from V to X down to 14. Let's hold off on that. It's going to give us some details on where 14 should be. Take the space from R to S and plus the same amount from 14 to Z. Oh, I skipped a bit. Then allow from V to Y 2 inches for a long waist effect. So V to Y 2 inches. And draw a line from 9 against Y to 14. Which one's 9 again? 9 is our bottom side seam point. So let's first connect this one. A17 is 0.9 in the book. And that's a guideline. And we need to extend it out to find 0.17. Or 0.14, I'm sorry. Still drinking my coffee here, I'm not quite awake. That looks pretty good. And in between those two guidelines, we have this point, which is this point. Now we can take the space from R to S and place the same amount from 14 to Z. 14 to Z, okay. We're gonna do a point along that line there, and we want it the same as W to A18. So lengths of lines here. Let's see the W's. Okay. Okay. And that is our point here. Draw a straight line from S to Z. We can connect those. Let's make it guideline colored. And divide the space from S to Z, making 1. It says divide the space. Let's hope it means divide that space equally in half. And we have our point 1, which makes the height of the dart. Now take out from Z to 2, 1 inch. So we're going to go this way, 1 inch. 1. And from Z to 3, 2 inches. Okay? Z to 3 is 2 inches. Now we connect these two with a guideline. And we're going to make another line from here to here, which is the same amount as these two. It says measure the space from 1 to 2 and apply the same length from 1 to 15. So we want to make a line that is the same length as A23 to A24. Okay, and that gives us this point 15. So we can go ahead and make a curved line here. Kind of mellow that a bit. And we curve in our darts as well. Wait a second. I want to make this line a guideline so it's a little more clear. How's that look? That looks alright. Okay. We need another slightly curved line from these 2 points. It curves up just a smidge. And that looks pretty good. On in the instructions, now finish the upper part of the front edge in a tight fitting effect from W to R and divide the space from W to R, which makes point 16, for a medium neck opening in front. So we're going to make 2 neck openings, 1 high and 1 medium. So from W to R, I'm trying to decide if it's this point or this point. I think it's this point. This is the one that we built our seam allowance for. Of course, they give us no guidance over here. You kind of want that smooth. It might be the other point. I can't get a good curve off of that point. So let's see what it looks like if we pop it back to this one. Bring that down some. I like the way that one looks better. Okay, so we're gonna divide that point, that line in half. So that's this curve here. It's curve RW. And we want to divide that by 2. Okay, and that gives us 0.16. Divide equally the shoulder of the front and take half from O to U. So we're going to divide the shoulder line in half. That's Q to U on our draft. Okay. And that is lowered. But of course the instructions don't tell us how much to lower that shoulder point. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay. Draw a parallel line from 17 to 18. Here's point 17, here's point 18, and it is parallel to, I don't know what. It's not quite parallel to this line. It might be slightly parallel-ish to some imaginary point. I honestly think they meant perpendicular. Who knows? So we can draw a point this way-ish. I'm gonna make it perpendicular using this tool here, point along perpendicular. And we need to flip that around. How long is that? Let's say 6 inches. That's not the right angle. Let's try 180. There it is. Okay, so we've got an arbitrary point there. And we're going to square a line across from 16 to 18. So here's our point 16. Hold shift to square it across. Okay, and I'm going out past it. I'm gonna make this one a little bit longer too. Let's see, 8. And then I'll come back and take the point in between. And this is our point 18. I do need to get a point here on the shoulder, which is gonna be tricky. I can use the curve tool here. Point, intersect, curve, and axis. But of course, that one doesn't lock at where they meet. Take it right there. And so that gives us our lowered point 17. So the instructions go on to say, if a curved effect is desired, make a curve from 17 to 16 as shown on the front diagram. So you can follow this guideline for a square medium necked neckline, you can follow this guideline for a curved neckline. Once again, we have options. That looks alright. To make the back opening at the back, oh, it never told us to connect these. We'll just go ahead and do it. Zoom out. Now zoom in. Okay. It's not a very sharp curve here. It's a nice high neckline. Nice and proper. Okay, there's the front. Hopping on to the back, we're gonna divide equally the space between L and M, making point 12. So just like before. Now we gotta lower that a mystery amount. And just like before, we have to find our medium neck point, and it is going to be half of A to B, but on the A to T line. So let's do a point along this line that is the length of A to B divided by 2. Okay? And so that's point 11 here. Just like before, we square across. And then we're gonna do the perpendicular tool. What do? We did 8 inches for the other side. Oh. Oh, that's real long. And then we build our points back in. Select the curve, select the axis, and let's move that one up there. Okay. Now draw in our various curved necklines. Pretty good. It never mentions armholes at all in the instructions here, so we'll just have to use our widths. We're gonna curve down here, and then it's got this little jog. This little jog is going to be the amount of the seam allowance, which will be, what is it? It's 3/8 of an inch in this book, I believe, which is 0.375. So that's about the angle. 0.375 gives us our little jog, and then we can build in the curve, which is just a simple curve. No, I have another point here, so I'll use the multi-point curve. 1, 2, 3, hit enter to end your curve, and then you fix it. You know, let's try this tool. I was reading about this one last night. let's delete that curve. I've never tried this one before. We might delete this. Select the first point of curve, select the second point of curve, select the third point of curve, select the fourth point of curve. I think I did that wrong. Hold on. Try again. Okay. Select the first point of curve, and then the second one is the control handle point. And then you hit the next part of the curve, and then its control handle point. But that didn't work. Select the first point of curve, select the second point of curve, select the third point of curve. Huh. So that doesn't exactly work with what we're trying to do because it needs to be curved into here. Nope. Well, it was worth a shot. Okay, let's go back and do it the old-fashioned way. Hit enter, and then we'll just pull that out. The point of using this tool is so that we don't have to readjust our curves when the pattern is graded into the different sizes. It should make them more standardized. Is that the word I'm looking for? We'll have to play around with it in practice. Bring that down a bit. That looks pretty good. Let's do our back armhole curve, which is a simple curve. And there is our tight-fitting corset cover. The last part of the instructions say, for a button stand, allow 1 inch at the front edge from 16 to 14. It's not here on the picture. Zoom out. From 16 down to 14. Otherwise, the tight-fitting corset cover is complete with all necessary seams allowed. So let's draw in that button stand. We want to point, holding shift, 1 inch out there. And we want to point, oops, cancel. We want to point along this line 1 inch out, and then we'll draw a curve to connect the two. I'm not sure I got that right. Let me add another point. One inch out, and then we'll draw a multi-point curve. Oops. And that one. Now we can hit enter. Okay. So what should we take for our pattern? Let's take the curved neckline path. Or do we want to do a square neckline? Yeah, let's do the curved neckline. Actually, before we do that, let's kind of look at how this pattern grades. So remember, for our standard measurements here, we have in the size 36. So let's just pop in 42 and kind of see what our curves are looking like. That one's alright. I'd have to go and smooth it out. It grades pretty well. Our shoulder point curves get a little weird. I have an idea. Let's go back to our size 36, I'm sorry, for that shoulder point curve. Let's see if instead, let's just do a point along the curve, which is curve Q to something. To you, maybe, divided by 2. Apply? Yeah. So let's do that to find our curve. And draw in the neckline that way. So now let's see how that grades. Right where it should be. I should have done that before. I don't know what I was thinking. Trying to overcomplicate things. This is curve L to K. Oh, like the curves. Okay, and now we can take for our pattern. I still want to do the curved neckline. You can choose whichever you want. So we hop over here into our detail drop down box and we select the workpiece tool, and then we select the points and the curves that we want. Hold shift for curves that the arrow is pointing in the wrong direction. Remember, we're always traveling clockwise. Oh, let me go back and select that point. Select this point and this point. Grab that curve. Come on, you can do it. That point. Hold shift for that curve. And zoom in a bit. Hold shift for the curve of that dark. Get the top of the dark point. Down again. That's going in the right direction. Select that point and our final curve. Hold shift for it. That looks pretty good. Hit enter. This is the front. One more for us. Start at L. All the way here. Shift. Shift again. And again. Okay, and into detail mode, there are our pieces. Oops, forgot to name this one. It's the back. So remember, seam allowance is built in. What are our options? Seam allowance is already built in to this pattern draft, so we don't need to worry about it here. You can add your labels. I built a template before. I think it's just called template. But you need to go and turn them on and then fill out all the data that you want on your labels. You can add your grain lines here. If you want to add any match marks, you need to add them in the draw mode and then turn them into pass marks here. And that's about it. Let me know if you have any questions, or if anything was unclear on this one. The instructions are getting a little weird. I don't want to disappoint you, but this book doesn't get better. So let me know if anything was too confusing for you, or if you have any questions in the comments. And next, I guess, we'll be stitching it up. So we'll see you then. Bye.